Okay, so I was thinking of doing something fun and out of the ordinary, and one of the things I was thinking of doing was, we've had this long conversation one time on my voice recorder, back when Churbit used to actually take my voice recorders, which they don't anymore. I don't know why. Anyways, well, I had this conversation about how to be a good actor and how to go into the world of acting. And I wanted to just sort of expand on that. If you were someone that was still over there and now you moved over here, you managed to figure out to just pay attention when somebody shouts on Facebook and then, oh my God, he was on YouTube, and then let's go over there. And good for you, you made it this far. Well, we have some fun new developments and some things we could do. And one of the things I was thinking of doing was reading how Hollywood thinks that you should act, and then sort of giving the Curtis commentary on that, because you're not going to get it like me from anyone else. So, and so, based on the possibilities of anybody that's a part of any of these Netflix movies or these 3D sort of cameras that they've used over Panaflex, actually having any sort of belief system, anything that they might say could be virtually disastrous to your well-being and state of mind, as far as later on those people going to prison and then you wanting to have absolutely no effects of any of their disease-ridden sort of state of mind as far as like conversing and acting. So just before we get started, there's something that I wanted to talk about as far as what it is you know about acting. Now, your boyfriend will tell you a different story than this. Don't call him and ask him. Your dad will tell you a different story than this. Don't call them and ask them. Just trust me. The reason why you loved movies in the 90s is because they used a camera that had silk poured into some glass, and the inventor made the glass solidify after the silk was in it, that turned it into a one slate viewing screen. That means when you're watching a movie, you say it's a blockbuster movie, you identify with it being that because the background and the foreground are next to each other. They're like this. Now you love that because you identify that you could be dreaming when you're watching the movies. Now, what do you say when you walk into a room when your brother or sister is watching a home video? You say, which home video is this? What do you say when you watch a movie, when you walk into a room and they've rented a movie? What movie is this? Now, how do you know the difference if you never saw that it's a family home video and then you never saw that it was a movie you've seen before? Now, the subconscious of how you know the difference is what I'm trying to explain to you. This inventor, no one knows his name, squirted some silk, some potion. It went in there, dissolved, solidified, and then the lens made it to where it pushed both the three dimensions into a flat image. And that's what they developed as what's called movie magic. And you can practically get away with anything as long as you're using this one lens. And they use it in a camera called a Panaflex. Now, Panaflex has variations, but as long as it says Panaflex, you're good. Now, they found out that you're a winner no matter what if you use a Panaflex. Somewhere along the way, in the year 2006, 2007, 2008, they figured out, how, using social networking, how to corner someone and get them to do a meeting with some wrong people. Those wrong people had boobs involved. The boobs turned into something to do with sex that had something to do with blackmail. That then meant you have to make bad movies on purpose so that the children can be raised to do the wrong thing for whatever reason, for whatever fake terrorist attack they want to use to say, oh no, and then now I have to be the savior. Their limited IQ couldn't actually wrap their mind around what a Panaflex needs to survive, which is, well, the inventor attracted naturally gifted prophets in the form of movie making. Now, these movies that started coming out were prophetic in their very nature. Now, metaphorical, prophetic, symbolizing certain people that are in a certain place, that could be someone important that has to do with changing the laws, that make it to where your private parts are better protected so that you could live in daylight a lot easier. So when you laugh, it could be more often. So when you thought something is funny by someone else, you could someday do it yourself. Now these laws would protect you enough to where you could live in what's a heavenly experience. Now, people that think that they live in a heavenly experience by their birthright of their parents having money from the pornographic industry, that their parents had money from the pornographic industry, that have money and ties in real estate, that have money and ties in, anything to do with illegal activity, make it to where they think that they're living in daylight. It's sort of a hybrid of some kind. Now, they feel like they have the right away in making these business appointments, and then they think that by judging you, by thinking that if you're going to fall from grace and touch my woman that I brought with me that has boobs, then it's your own fault to take my advice to use my camera rather than your camera. Now, using their camera had a very isolated approach by the Paramount industry, by the Universal industry, by DreamWorks, by all the rest of them, by going world and having the studio stay safe behind its gigantic walls. It's a safe after effect. No one had anything weird or bad happen for decades on end. The Netflix industry, these 3D TV shows, these bullshit movies that say they're funny by laughing for themselves so that you were supposed to laugh, but you obviously missed the joke. Yeah, these companies basically live to make their small pocket of porn stars a bigger pocket, and then a bigger pocket. They want to grow what their parents never taught them when they said, please touch my vagina, versus the Mormon way or versus Paramount or Universal or DreamWorks way, which is don't touch the vagina. Touch my pee-pee versus the Mormon way, the Paramount way, the Universal way, and the DreamWorks way. Don't touch the pee-pee. They think that it's best to actually learn life lessons while making a film at everybody else's expense worldwide or in their small pocket of circle. Meaning, when one of them that's a moron by their very nature in a human, like adult-sized form, finally turns a corner in their own IQ and then got the girl that he thought he could never get because she finally laughed at him and he knows it was authentic, in his 30s, he doesn't recognize that that's weird. What someone in the Mormon way of life learns when they're 12, he doesn't think that that makes them better than them. In fact, he's one of the people that says, what makes you think you're so special? Or what that makes you better than me? In fact, it does in both cases. Now, you can't convince them of that because of how wealthy they are. So they get to live their life making barely preschool level decisions in a grown-up body by sacrificing you to your own sinful desires based on bringing somebody that is, well, by a person's normal standard that would never go near that. And by the way, people of this standard technically have the director of this production house or the Mormon way of life that says, we don't do that unless there's a first date. He's doing it at the business meeting. Please touch my girlfriend's boob because he's a porn star. He's in his 150,000th woman. And what you would say, well, why would you want me to do that? In fact, she really is hot. She's hot because her bracelet that she's missing from a bracelet government that doesn't exist, that I am a very, very proud inventor of, would tell you that she's 10 million times more experienced than your girlfriend. Now that has maybe possibly a smell to it, a provocative smell to it, and you're tantalized. Now, based on him knowing that he's got only that in his secret case, he says, well, then I'll use religion for the rest of everything that I want to get from this entire big building that I have, which is, if you touch it, you must pay. If you touch it badly, I will hold religion against you and say, naughty, naughty. He'll conveniently be a shepherd among the sheep. Now that you realize this, you also might realize that they might actually get what they want sometime in the future. Now they might actually decide that they might be someone that takes over some new land and they got to train people. Their small pocket landed on an explosion after effect of some people saying, help us, teach us. Now in that case, I think it's important to talk about the rights and the wrongs of what you do and don't do in acting. Now something that you might want to know first off, that you might recognize when you're watching these 3D shows, is somebody that walks in and is just very lackadaisical and then says their line and then they're just like, I know, right? Now that's something that you might recognize immediately. Now don't be fooled. Technically this could be looked at in two different ways. You could have a porn star director that finally got everything that they wanted to do with this 3D movie. They know that it's a bad camera, but they're just trying to grow their own personal fame in small pockets, getting bigger and bigger. They know that they're out-calibered when it comes to going world, which is why they broke down that industry in the first place. It took years to do it, but they're not worried about getting caught by the police because they own them. They own all levels of the police and justice system. This is way, way, way far into the depths of how far bad can it get, and nobody knows. You know if you're the victim of it, and I'm very sorry if you are, and I'm doing my best to try to get to you as fast as possible. Now, that you're aware of that, technically you should know that being a person that doesn't say, hey, that's bad acting, also makes you someone that could be victimized by the director that showed you this 3D movie and says, isn't that awesome? With Boobalicious sitting next to him. Now, if you don't say, go fuck yourself, get the fuck out, you technically now are basically agreeing to have sex with his wife. Now, one thing to take into consideration, it could happen two ways when they made the movie. They could actually know how to act, doubtful, but they could actually know how to act and then act this way on purpose to make a suggestion to everybody in the room of some small circuit of some new state, city, country, just because if nobody disagrees with them, you say to yourself, this is a porno opportunity, isn't it? Now he's got all the everything else besides actually being able to act. I mean, he brought the wine, he brought the beer, he brought all the cool styles, and he brought the suitcases that everybody gets to wear all this shit, and he knows all the addresses of some resorts that they can travel to by air, by plane. Now with all of that, you're just like, you're kind of turned on. So if you say something, you're not going to be invited. So you don't, and then you get invited, and then you just basically shook hands with doing a porno that masqueraded itself as doing a movie opportunity in the first place. But when you recognize that it was bad acting, and then he's just like, and you don't say anything, it's not your fault. You didn't want to die. Anybody that actually comes in there trying to act badly is obviously insane. And why would you say something to someone that's obviously completely psychotic? They've gotten where they've gotten probably because they've killed people. That's not your fault. But what I am trying to say to you, if you're somebody that has an opportunity to say something, or at least think that you're right and they're wrong, this is for you. To think that you're above it all, this is for you. So when they're doing this and when they're doing that, they are acting bad. They could be doing it on purpose, and they could actually be doing it on accident. It's debatable. But one thing to take into consideration, not always is it bad acting. You just think it is because it looks like a home video camera. Now, they have a camera, and there's some movies out there that got tricked, even though it had a really positive blockbuster screenplay, but while they used a really, really 3D, three-dimensional camera, it made everybody look like they were acting because it doesn't hold the true, I feel like I'm spying on them in some dream. Now, without that flat, like silk lens, you could assume bad acting without knowing it, just based on being unimpressed. Feeling like it's a home video is going to make you look for bad acting. And technically, realistically, you could have sometimes bad acting with a Panaflex camera and it actually looks fine. It just needed a better camera. There's virtually now 3 different ways to look at it. They could have been acting bad on accident. They could have been acting bad on purpose. And then they could have been acting good but with the wrong camera. So really it's a judgment call for you to make while you're watching anything and everything. Now, for instance, you could technically be watching a 3D Netflix movie and think to yourself, this would be better if it was in a Panaflex, or it might not actually be a bad camera if it's in a Panaflex. And could be true, probably not. Now, the reason why it's probably not true is because it's a porno in the making, you're really looking at something where the director always likes scenes to be extended. They make it more, not less. Now, people that are a part of the natural regime as far as the blockbuster companies that I already mentioned, those people realize that less is more. They make scenes short, they keep things to the point, they switch around a lot, they move around, and you know, you follow it like somebody that has a high IQ that's just like, I didn't stay while I was spying on them in my dream bubble because it was boring. I skipped around over there, and then it was exciting. Now, if everybody knows what it is that's boring and what it is that's exciting, then you could obviously find out where it is you would edit a movie. Now that's just sort of giving you a tidbit on how you should edit movies if you're ever given the opportunity to. Just cut that shit out and throw it away. keep it like this as much as you can. Now, for instance, we've talked about the basics now that you know the basics about good acting, bad acting, and if you use this camera, if you use that camera. I was going to go into something that I was reading about. The first thing that I looked up on the internet, which is everything you need to know to nail a chemistry read. Now, I don't know what it says here. It says by Caroline Liam, June 10th, 2016, on Backstage.com. All right, so chemistry is the complex emotional or psychological interaction between two people. If this were a romantic article, it would be about love. Instead, we are discussing the astonishing rapport between two actors and how that connection is achieved in order to book the room and ultimately the role. A chemistry read is an opportunity to read with actors being considered for a role opposite yours, usually lead roles. The main purpose is to see how you instinctively connect and work with the other actor. But before you meet that opportunity, the casting director needs to see the potential. Some standout moments from recent film casting. An actor's confidence entering the room instantly puts the room at ease and tells me you're ready to work. Being open to receive notes, redirect, and then fully execute those notes tell me you will be able to take care of yourself with my procedures, director, and on the set. Producers, director, and on the set. Actors utilizing personal history for key moments or intrinsical connecting it to something from their past makes me believe the story is their story. The actors who were willing to play were more open to adjusting their choices. The result was collaboration in the audition room, so much more fun. They love the script, whether this is true or not. Once you get the call back, it is likely the writer, director, producer will be in the room and wants to think you love their baby as much as they do. Be ready to discuss why. Almost everyone satisfies the role, but it is the actor who can become the real-life human being in the script with history, phobias, humor, and grace who gets my attention. They establish relationships to their environment. People behave differently depending on surroundings. Through use of environment, the actors change the way they utilize the room and provide specified detail to the characters unique to them. This took them out of the office and into the world of the character. It drew me in and made me believe. At this point, following the initial read and after callbacks with the producers or director, we collaborate on the best pairings. It is still guesswork, but we have a hunch. We already imagine you in the role. Now we want to see how each actor plays off of each other. This is the chemistry read. Allow your best self to show up and be ready to collaborate, not outdo or one-up the other actors. Our chemistry reads includes 3 cameras and 5 actors for 2 roles. So how did our two leads book their roles? All pairings had good reads, but each was a different movie. So the question became, which movie version do we make? Number 2, transcend the material. The actors who booked it took what the writer-director imagined and made it stronger. Satisfy the page and then some. Bring your own personal stamp. Allow each moment beat to breathe, to connect truthfully before moving on. 3, it is the chemical, but it is also the work. It is the spark, that thing. It's a gut feeling that it is right, the right pairing. The actors were actively fighting for whatever they want from each other, and that's compelling to watch. They consistently kept ahead of their audience, making us wonder what they would do next. Like any strong relationship, each made the other look better and be better. For pressure and nerves. During a chemistry read, test, mix and match, callbacks, whatever the situation, there may be a host of nerves taking hold of your body. Take the pressure off yourself and give it to your partner in the scene. You have a job to do, stick with that. You have done good work. Know that we have your back. If you come to the table, the other stuff doesn't matter in this moment. Memorize your sides. People who are really on 2 sides of this, no pun intended, if you're memorized, you are free. Take your scene and learn it thought by thought visually. This, coupled with research and analysis, allows more opportunity to discover and share a strong performance. Whatever is occurring in your daily life, do not negate it, but use it to serve the piece. By the time you are at a callback, you're off book. Certainly at chemistry reads, you don't want to be attached to the paper, but rather creating relationships to your fellow actors, directors, and casting directors who want to bring you back for her future projects. Okay, so here's what I gathered from that. Absolutely nothing. Zero. Now, do you want how that person was supposed to give you advice on what it is you're supposed to do if you were to show up for any sort of acting role? The real deal, like how you could get a job. Let's just say that all of a sudden everything opened up and everybody from Barnes & Noble said, we're going to make these book screenplays, and every city is divided up into like 200 movies, and then all of a sudden each city has their own individual Hollywood, and now everybody's signing up in every individual city for certain movies that were taken straight out of a book and then put into action, and everybody's now suddenly auditioning in every small little town in the United States or even in the world. What do you do? Okay, so there's probably about 5 things that you should do if you're a guy, and there's about 5 things that you should do if you're a girl. If you're a guy, everything physically with you that you think someone that you saw that wasn't on steroids was better than you, it is your responsibility to match that, or don't even show up for your audition. They sell a curl bar everywhere. Start out with 55 pounds and work yourself up to 125, 135 pounds. It'll take 6 months. But along the way, you'll like yourself. Start out doing push-ups also along with your curl bar. You'll do 10, 4 separate sets, and then you'll do 25, 4 separate sets, and then you'll do 35, 4 separate sets. Otherwise, don't show up for your audition. Hang off of a table and put your feet under something on the far end of the table, and then have your back right here, your feet are that way, and then go right to here, and then go up right to here, like this, 25 times, 4 times. Then switch into your legs, put leg weights, something around your legs. You can get those little leg weights from the store, but basically just hold them there, and then raise them up like this, and then just do fishies. Do about 40 of them like this, and then do 20 of them like that, so it gets to be about 50 each leg. And then do that 4 times. Everything happens in sets of 4. Or don't even show up for your audition. Now, everything gets results, and you only do this because someone else did. Otherwise, don't even show up for your audition. If you think that you were starting out with something amazing up here, you are letting everybody in the entire building down if you show up where everybody that was applying that doesn't have this came with that. Now, it's very, very simple. The thing that you will tell yourself at a certain point, based on having brothers, sisters, moms or dads, or anybody in your house or anybody in your near environment, is that you're beautiful just the way you are. Except when you're next to them. So, it's not personal. No one is mad at you. And you are a good person. There's a time long ago when somebody had to show up for a physical job. It was at the docks. They were part of a group that had to gather fish. And then, it's unfortunate, but they were part of an industry that had to be very physical. This is still going on now in certain countries. They got to go around the entire ship dock, and then they got to, lift giant things like this. Then they got to go off the dock, and then they got to move crates. Now, within about 3 weeks total, and I mean only 3 weeks, their body is completely transformed. Their family would starve if they didn't do this work. But within 3 weeks, their body was fully capable of repeating these tasks. And there's something very luscious about brand new muscles. Natural. Now, when they accidentally finally have a weekend and then they go out and then somebody gives them a birthday present and it's a really nice sweater, and then some girl is looking at them from across the pub, and then there's these loud ones that are just like, how come you don't like me? I'm a riot! Sometimes you can find yourself catching yourself overcompensating for something that you just told yourself, but I'm a really, really good person. Find out if you're the obnoxious person when the crowd gathers, because then you'll find out under it all, you're insecure. You're overcompensating. Everybody has a different way of overcompensating. You could stay introverted and just say, I'm not worth it, or you could be extroverted and trying to show, when you start practicing around a girl about learning how to interact with people, it comes across as being obnoxious. Now, sometimes they say silence is golden. Well, when a girl is surrounded by constant people that are obnoxious, she always, and it's historic, she finds the time to stare across the room. Sometimes you're worth every single amount of penny that you don't have because of what you don't do, which is sexy. Promising that you're not going to invade her mental thoughts next to her and when you're away is priceless. But there was an inner confidence that you had because when you put on your sweater, when you woke up that morning and you took off your shirt and you were just like, that's yours to keep. God's gift. You're as shocked as anybody would be, and so when you go there in shock, sometimes you being in shock of how hot you are can actually communicate that to someone else. So you're going to be hot and you're going to be quiet. Look at what I did. That, for someone that has attained it, is impressive every morning they wake up. When there's the ones that always say, I'm a good person, I'm funny, I'm fantastic. There's the other ones that stumbled upon a nice body where they go, and they don't say, I'm a good person, I'm worth it, I'm funny. They just go like this. Now, are they trying to be better than you? But if the girl liked them more than they liked you, is there a hidden secret among someone that is actually physically self-confident? Can it be portrayed when you're reading lines? For instance, when you want to go there and overcompensate and act, is it because you're not happy with yourself? You want to show them that you're funny. There's a funny sarcasm in someone that's quiet because they just go, now he finally moved! And then sometimes you can catch an entire audience laughing depending on what movie you're watching and which actor just did it. When they're just like always quiet and they just go like, everybody will laugh because something just snuck in. To that quiet psyche, nothing makes them laugh, nothing is funny. So that's chapter 1.